Hey everybody, it's Sean Ashcraft here with another edition of Coffee and Cats. Today I will be talking about the recent Aquawizard EP, live from the Wizard's Cove. Pretty exciting. We're on Spotify. We did a video. The video's on YouTube. I think the video you're watching right now is on YouTube. So YouTube, that's pretty cool. So I thought today for our edition of creative audio or just creative, music stuff theory, I would check out our latest album while I've got all the media still loaded up on my hard drive. I haven't archived it yet, and I forgot that there is also a rough cut of the video with the session. So today I'm going to just sort of talk about how did we record the EP, how did we do it live, and how did we put it all together, and what gives it that sound. It sounds a little bit more like a real music EP, and so I wanted to kind of talk about, here's some of the reasons why it sounds good. I don't know. So let me get things organized here real quick. Got my computer thingy doing stuff. And I probably have the Valley International Incorporated Dynamite in the camera shot. I wanted to feature this because, one, I'm using it live here to feed my audio through it. So my microphone right now is going through the Valley International Dynamite. It is an audio effects processor that it basically does audio dynamics processing. And so specifically, it has like a few different modes. So you can use it for gating, and you can use it for dynamic compression. And so there's a lot of different features. It's pretty neat. I think it came out in the 70s. I think originally the company that made it was called Valley People. I believe they're based in Nashville, Tennessee, but I'm not entirely sure if that's where they got started. This unit was produced in Nashville, and by that point, the company was called Valley International Incorporated. Valley People was the original kind of brand name for the Dynamite, and it actually was not in a rack unit. It was in a weird kind of half rack, module thing. The unit that I have here is two Valley People Dynamites in a stereo pair that you can link, and it's in a convenient rack unit. And this was, I think, made in the 80s. It was kind of okay, this is a popular unit, let's actually make it pro and legit, have a rack unit version of it. But yeah, I got this quite a few years ago before they got very popular, I guess. I mean, they've always been kind of popular, but this was a good deal. I generally buy kind of relatively cheap equipment, but I wanted to talk about the Valley People Dynamite or whatever, and then also the audio interface we used to record this was a Matu 8 Pre. Sorry for popping my peas, but yeah, I don't really care all that much. I'm just just riffing it. The Matu is, or Motu, or however you pronounce it. It's a company that exists, and I think they make pretty good stuff, and it's not too expensive, and it's just pro audio stuff. This unit has 8 preamps, and it plugs in. It's an old Firewire interface, but it still works with my newer stuff. So I'm gonna use it until it stops working, basically. But yeah, it records really well. It's got really good converters. So we did record this live in Andrew's basement, and I think I've got my screen up here. Let me pull up the video. Sorry for breathing into the mic. I'm so excited. I got to get my coffee going here. But yeah, we did Montu audio interface. We didn't use the Valley People Dynamite in the basement. We did that after the fact. But then, yeah, just microphones that we had access to, or just in my mic collection. Especially here, you can see on the screen, the company Blue. Just it's hilarious that it just so happened to match Mark's shirt, but there's this company called Blue, and they make these. I mean, they're famous for making like the Yeti, which is the podcaster mic that a lot of people were using. But this is their original ball design, and I guess I have like a pretty early serial number. It's like number 150 or something like that. But yeah, they had just come out as like a relatively new company, and they had all these like really expensive pro microphones. I have also their baby bottle, which is a condenser microphone. It's nice, it's fine, but I ended up using something else for the record. But we did use these Blue balls they're literally called the Ball. We used them on Mark's drums, and aesthetically, like the looks, like they just so happen to match everything, which was hilarious in my opinion. But then the Ball microphone, it's kind of interesting because they are what are called dynamic microphones, which use like instead of a capacitor, they use magnets basically to move a coil, and then that produces a signal. So it actually creates an electrical signal based on the sound pressure. And so I guess that's what's dynamic about them. Traditionally, a microphone like this, a dynamic microphone, you just plug it into a preamp and you just turn the preamp up and it just works. But condenser microphones, they have a capacitor in them, and that creates a really tiny signal. So what you want then is to boost that signal up before sending it on down to another circuit. And so condenser microphones have a little amplifier circuit inside of them to boost the signal before it even gets sent down the wire. Anyway, the Blue Ball, this is just my opinion here, it was made so cheaply that they decided to put an amplifier in the microphone. So that actually requires power, phantom power. In the audio biz is what they call phantom power. Like powering a microphone using the cable that it's attached to. And so anyway, where was I going with all this? Oh, so these are like powered microphones, and they're fine. They work great on the toms. We got the tom sound using them. What else? You can just see in this cut here the overheads that we're using. I had some access to some nice AKG C414s, so I mean, the cymbal sounds really nice, and it's like you just get a really nice microphone. There's not really a secret. You just have like a nice expensive microphone. But we placed it what's called an AB pair. No, an X. What did we do? AB pair, where you just place them pointing towards, basically just kind of pointing towards the cymbals. And the room that we're in is like a nice long room. So we could get away with having the bare walls there, because it wasn't like a small room where you would have like all that trashy high end like bouncing off the walls. This was like a nice long room with like a couch and carpet, and so like it absorbed, like the sound kind of like got pushed to the back of the room and kind of absorbed, bounced back, and it just had a nice sound. So that's how we got basically the big drum sound that we got, is nice microphones. That generally helps. And then yeah, just kind of being in just the right room. So here is some other microphone choices. I decided to go with the radio station has a couple spare mics. I'll just be honest, I borrowed a couple mics from the radio station. We're not using them. I'm really careful with them, I promise. So, anyway, the RE20, it's like the expensive dynamic microphone. It's like the one that's really nice. Some really famous people have used them. Radiohead, I think, has used them in the past. We just had some handheld mics for the background vocals. What else is cool? Let's see. Bouncing around here. Probably don't get a good shot of the kick drum anywhere. Here you can... Oh, I like the drum boost on note here because as Andrew was syncing up like an early mix of the album, he was like, I think it just sounds more like we're actually playing if the drums sound like this, and demonstrated that. And I was like, you know what, you're right. I'm trying to make it sound too much like a gated, like sound isolated, perfect sounding studio. And what we ended up, that's part of the reason why I was like, we just need to add the Dynamite, because that's gonna bring up basically the ambience. It's going to bring up everything. So, honestly, to have that wall of sound mix that you get, that's the reason why this album sounds the way that it does, is because it's basically mixed to be a wall of sound. And the Dynamite really helped with that, which I will demonstrate later. You can see the snare drum, mic placement. Just we went with the classic SM57. Just point that guy. You can futz around with the position of this if you want. Oh, you know what else we did? We added a mic underneath. I think we had a second. I don't remember what mic it was, but it was underneath the snare drum. And Mark was like, oh, Sean, maybe you should add the snare drum to the bottom. And I was like, it always sounds really trashy, and I don't really like the way it sounds. But then in the end, let me look actually. Zoop. It's kind of in my way. Let's see, snare top, -3 dB, snare bottom. So -10 that's not a huge difference. It's not like it's buried in the mix, like way back there. It's there. I ended up using it. Just cut a lot of low end. So yeah, drums, miking the drums is the really important, and then everything else you can kind of just make sure you're singing into the mic. You can kind of get a shot of how we did the setup here. We had a snake and plugged in all the mics over there, ran the snake over here, plugged into all the preamps. I don't know how I'm editing this. I'm just kind of making this stuff up as I go, but I had a shot of this rack unit and how it was all plugged in. And so, as you can see, the Behringer pre is actually what I'm using. So I'm not going to lie, the Behringer worked fine on the drums. We use that on the drums because the drums are loud, and you can just set a mic preamp at its little sweet spot, and it'll be fine. And we record at 24-bit, 48K, I think. Yeah. And it sounded good. And then all of the other stuff we, did through the Matu. Maybe a couple drum mics we put through the Matu. I don't really remember how we did it. But, so for being an indie rock band, this is a pretty legit setup, but it's not too expensive. Pretty affordable mic pre's, 16 channels. We have a headphone distribution system using my MacBook. Classic setup right there. Some things that make it nice, having the speakers there. I'm using an Headamp 6 Pro from Art for the headphone distribution. It works fine. The knobs are a little noisy, but other than that, you're not really supposed to be fiddling with the knobs all that much once you get it set. So not too expensive, relatively affordable. Spend more money on just other things in your life. Don't spend too much money on music stuff. But having the multi-channel makes this stuff possible. That's kind of the biggest thing. The other things too, we did DIs for the guitars and just kind of went through our amps just a little bit in the room so that we could practice together. But most of the time we were just going straight through and DIing the stuff, which means to just plug the instrument directly into your nice audio equipment and then process it later to make it sound like a real amplifier. A lot of people like to then what's called reamp, where they feed the DI signal back into an amp and then record that. That sounds really good. It works fine. Depending on how long I talk for this, whatever this is, video. What was I about to say? I might talk about latency and just having to process stuff. And the reason why I don't really do reamping anymore, I just kind of like either play it live and record that and DI, and then, you can futz with it later, or just don't bother with reamping unless you really have the time and energy to do it. But we were a little more focused on getting a good live experience and everything. So yeah, what we did is we played everything together, recorded the drums, recorded the direct guitars, recorded us singing. So if you listen to the drums, you can hear a little bit of singing in the background, but other than that, it's just drums. We didn't have the amps on. We just had it in the headphones. That's the reason why the headphone system is so valuable, I suppose you could say. What else before I dive into the mixing? So something that's going to be fun about this in particular is this is my current mix. This is the final mix. But before I did the loud processing. But something that's kind of fun is I've been using project alternatives. And so I can jump back all the way to the tracking. So we can get a preview of what it was like before all of the loud mixing and everything. So let me get this loaded up here. It'll just be a second here. You can see my fun early color coding. I think I changed it later, but here's a little, let's just skip ahead here. If I said that I loved you, would you still hang around? A little bit of better balance there. If I said that I want. So yeah, as you can hear, the raw, that was like raw, like do I have any effects on at all? Okay, so I've a little bit of effects on the vocals and some amplifier effects, but other than that, this is pretty much the raw sound. Could be a lot worse. Sure. Let me. So we kind of what I did is like each stage I saved a project alternative, and I thought about stepping through each one of these and kind of talking about what my process is, but honestly it's kind of boring. So I'm just going to talk about when I got to the stage where I decided to use the Valley People Dynamite. So what should I do first? I'll just go here and let's listen to how it ended up sounding, how the not Valley People Dynamite adding that, like not adding that in, we'll hear what that sounds like, and then we'll listen to what I did with the Valley People Dynamite. I'm just going to call it the Valley People Dynamite, even though that's technically not the model that I have. It's like the same circuit, it's the same chips, it's whatever. It sounds like I've heard like the real thing and blah blah blah. It sounds, even if it's not exactly the same, it gives the same vibe. So anyway, here is, let's go. I think a good example is when we're doing the Beach Boys vibes over here. Oops, sorry. Yeah, I totally meant to stop it right there. Really pushing my computer to the limit here by doing video and audio, intensive audio. But anyway, so I thought it might be kind of fun to hear, I don't know, let's hear both the vocals. If I said that I loved you, would you? Now let's hear it without the Dynamite. And the mix might be a little bit different, not matched, so just a heads up on that. If I said that I loved you, would you still? All right, now let's hear it. Just the Dynamite. If I said, oh, it's pretty quiet. That I loved you, would you still hang around with me? But what I think you can hear there a little bit, I know I turned up the knob and stuff, but what I think you can hear there a little bit is like the loud parts were definitely turned down, and then you could hear it kind of release up, like, all right, here's everything else that was supposed to be there. So I think when you mix it all together, it does a good job of, yeah, mixing it together. If I said that I loved you. Let's do the drums. Drums sound great through the Dynamite, and I went a little crazy, so. Just hold on a second. That didn't work. Sorry. I think my computer's just a little cranky. Let me get a spot that doesn't have Mark singing so much. Alright, so this is normal. Here's with the Dynamite. Can't hear a huge difference right there. Yeah, in this song I didn't mix it in a lot, but like, it's a pretty hardcore sound. Like it's pumping a lot. You're hearing a lot of the room sound, and just the way that the Dynamite works. So kind of what my process was. Is what I'm doing here, in case it's not, very clear, because my color coding's not great, I'll be honest. I'm bussing everything together, and I might have been soloing this wrong earlier, so sorry about that. Not doing a great job demonstrating this, but that's okay. I think this busses into here. Oh, it does. Okay, so that's fine. I did my mixing, did my editing, got everything like, all right, these are all the good takes of all the stuff. It matches the video. Cool. Let's make it sound cool. So all this processing and just, I guess, a real quick rundown on just basic stuff I do with processing. Like here's the amp simulator. I'm basically just using Logic stock plugins for the most part. Except for at the mastering stage. But yeah, just, get your sound. Maybe either EQ or compress next, depending on, what you want to do. Gate if you want to. So gating, like right now I'm using the Valley People Dynamite in 2 modes. The first channel's being fed into the second channel. The first channel is gating. And I have it set to kind of slow gate so that it doesn't pop on and make a popping sound, which the Valley People Dynamite is really good at making a pop Not that kind of pop, but like, here, I can just demonstrate. If I set it to gate, the gate kind of pops on a little bit. I don't know if you can really hear it there. He like softer vowels get popped on, which is really cool on drums because it gives it a nice pop. Oh, it's really wrong switch. I was like, wow, it's really noisy now. So you can hear how much noise it's not getting out that much noise. It was like cranking it up. But anyway, yeah, so there's a couple different modes with that. And then the second thing I've got here is mostly like a peak limiter, so that like it kind of just levels out the loud stuff. And so that way I can talk quiet, but then every once in a while I'll talk loud and it'll clamp that down. And then that signal's fed. So it's from preamp to Valley People Dynamite to line input to the Matu. And then just for full transparency, today I am routing this through the Matu, mixing it with my computer audio, and then sending that to an external Zoom H4n. And I did a little bit of calibration so that hopefully it's like in the sweet spot where it's not, the input to the H4n is a little distorted, just fine, it's whatever. And it's also like a little noisy, not a big deal. Hopefully this is at a good spot. It's probably, who cares? Nobody really notices unless it's really bad. And just for fuller transparency, the reason why I have the noise gate, and if you're listening very loudly, you can kind of hear it, is just because the fan noise from my computer. I'm getting a little too distracted here. So yeah, just kind of fun, I think, having the Valley People Dynamite. So like, maybe if we listen to the whole mix and then I add in the Dynamite, I think then we'll get a feel for how much it's contributing. So here was kind of where the mix was at. I was like, it's fine, it's good. But I was like, what if I do this? Alright. Not a big difference there. Add in the bass. Yeah, I think I'm just kind of doing too much stuff here. But I think you get the idea. Why doesn't the solo clear button work? That seems strange. Solo clear. Oh, it does work. It's just everything is just so slow. So I think that gives you a little bit of an idea. It's not super obvious. It's kind of more one of those vibe things where, and I think that's the difference between mixing and mastering. In this channel, I've got other episodes of Coffee and Cats where I'm like mixing stuff on different old audio workstations that are, out of date, but it's kind of fun. Our door is not one out of date. That one's kind of still being developed. It's really, really good. Highly recommended. But just for various reasons, mostly because of the plugins. That's why I use Logic. But yeah, I use a lot of stock plugins. However, this is going to kill my computer if I try to run it while I'm playing, but this was the tool I used to kind of master everything. So that's kind of what I was saying a second ago. The difference between mixing and mastering, sometimes you'll want to go back to the mixing stage and just kind of be like, big picture, I want everything to be thicker. So the Dynamite really helped with that. I think soloing some of those channels, you could hear how crazy I went with it, because there's so many different settings. You can set it so that it emphasizes peaks with, like, if you set it to the average compression time, like it has like time constants, but you can, adjust the release and stuff. If you set it to the average mode, it lets peaks go through. And so like if you gate something and then average compress it, like it's poppy, like it crunches, like and it's a very consistent like 80s like I don't know, the sound that the analog sound that it gives is very random and noisy, and it just kind of, if you're trying to go for like a classical pure recording, the Valley People Dynamite does not do that. It just goes nuts with whatever signal it's given, and then it just, yeah. And I think a big part of it, just to be honest, is the distortion, the non-linear aspects of how it behaves. One thing that's nice about having the stereo pair was, I'm really popping these P's very easily. But anyway, sorry. I'm just so trained to like listen for that. One thing about the stereo pair is you can link the channels together, so it's hard to perfectly match a stereo pair, like just by, you know, eyeballing it. But if you link it together, they kind of, it makes the stereo image not go crazy. So anyway, next stage would be the Ozone. I got this great plugin deal. This is like the only plugin that I use that's not stock. Like maybe I'll use like Melda Production stuff, which is like free. They make free plugins, but they also have paid plugins too. Not an endorsement, just saying. But I did get a good deal on Ozone 8 many years ago. Actually, they have like a much newer version now, but this version still works great. So it's EQ. I'm not even doing anything with the EQ here, so I'm not sure why that's on, but the maximizer is really good, and as you can see, this is the thing that I just decided to use to like crank the output. So I'm just going to loudness match this so it's not so crazy loud, but with this on, let's see if I can play just, I don't know how much I can play, but we'll see. Instant system overload. Nah. It's like, nah, I'm not doing this. Nah. Oh well. But anyway, so yeah, I was able to kind of turn it up 8 dB, sure. Mixing level wise, I don't know. I wasn't really aiming for anything in particular, so let me turn this off. So let me just see what the output was at. I even had, you know, kind of a, oh, I don't have the limiter on here. But yeah, mixing wise, I do a little bit of bus compression, parallel compression, that kind of stuff, but there's just something about using, and I know it's using the Logic plugins. I don't use anything, you know, super fancy, but if you're trying to, like, this is not a good example, but like here, I still, even though I have the parallel bus of the Dynamite processing, I'm still slapping on compression here and doing a little bit of parallel compression. But yeah, kind of one thing I wanted to mention, and you might notice with all these like little sample delay things, the process of sending audio out from a device back through analog processing and then back into the digital domain. So what you do basically is just play. I just played these buses, you know, one stereo pair at a time into the Dynamite while I was listening to that, just kind of making adjustments, kind of going crazy with it, listening to the dry sound. But then the problem is that you have to delay your sound to make sure it lines up with the original sound. And if you don't line it up perfectly, this is what this was going to be a good demonstration of. You're going to have really bad phasing problems, and it's not going to give you the effect that you want. You know, you wanted to beef up the bass. If you don't bring that audio in back exactly, and we're talking within one sample of getting it lined up, you'll hear phasing problems because those samples no longer add up to be perfect. So it's kind of annoying. You have to do like all this fiddly little, adjusting and just kind of listening to make sure it's right. And there is such a thing as latency compensation. I am very aware of this, but there's just something about the way that I did this where I had to go back and adjust some stuff. So I don't know if this will play back, but I'm just not going to touch anything. This is I used this session as kind of a way to test the samples of what you can do to test and see what, like let's say you have a copy of something and you want to make sure that copy is an exact copy. What you can do is a null test where you invert the values of one copy of it and then add it all the values to the original thing. And if it all adds up to 0, then you have a perfect copy. So this is a way to kind of like, since it's not a perfect copy, I did want to see like if I could null certain aspects of it out, and the way that it all adds up together, it just kind of sounds weird.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Like, let me demonstrate with the drums. Normal drums. Messed up drums. And what's going on here is we're hearing this, the normal drums, and then I'm feeding it out to the Dynamite. So if I play this by itself...
1, 2, 3,
sorry, I reset. Pretty normal. Play this by itself. Pretty normal, but then add them together. And that's because they're nulling out. But because the Valley People Dynamite is adding all of this noise and distortion and stuff, it is canceling out in such a way that it just sounds wacky. I love the way the bass sounds. Oh, and the tom. Oh my gosh, that was neat. Let's go here. That's neat. Sorry, I got a little zoned out there. So this is how I mix things sometimes, and you get a little hypnotized, and then you realize hours have passed, and you're like, yeah, music's neat. So I hope this was kind of a fascinating look behind the scenes. I could check out other projects so we can, but they're all just kind of similar things. Here's a little sneak peek into some other things that we might be working on in the near future. But yeah, very excited. Again, the EP release up on platforms. The secret to making it sound as good as it does is just get some stuff that works and play the songs good. If you got to fix some stuff, most people won't notice, but just don't fix it too much because then people start to notice and they're like, a little suspicious. I don't think you can play that. But that's okay. You can play whatever you need to play or want to play, however way you want to play it, as long as it's pretty neat. And then, yeah, we do have some shows coming up for real, at least one show. So get excited for that. We'll try to make a page or a post about the details. That way you can check it out. But yeah, hope this was fun. I'm going to go ahead and sign off on this one. And if I think of anything else I wanted to mention, thanks for watching.